Have you guys ever read a book that stressed you out so much that in order to finish it, you had to take multiple breaks? Well, if you have, you know how I felt when reading The Maid by Nita Prose. Question now is, was this stress a result of great character writing or of a clunky plot? Guess you'll have to find out. Let's talk about it. The Maid is a murder mystery thriller that follows our main protagonist, Molly Gray, as a maid at the high society hotel, the Regency Grand. Molly's life changes quickly as she moves from the seemingly invisible help to a key witness and potential suspect in the murder of famous real estate tycoon Charles Black, who is a resident at the Regency Grand Hotel. All while we, as the readers, begin to learn that there are some dark secrets being held by the buttoned-up staff at the Regency Grand Hotel, and that the clean and above-board nature that is trying to be presented may not be reality. If you've watched my They All Fall Down review, you know that murder mystery, in general, is one of my favorite genres in fiction. And while I have read a lot of them, I can promise you I've never had as unique of a narrator experience as I did while reading Molly Gray's narration of The Maid. The reason for this is the unique twist of the unreliable narrator that Nita Prose uses in her story. Molly is implied to be neurodivergent, and we learn rather early that what Molly perceives and what might actually be happening in the story could be very different things. And so what this does is it causes you to focus a lot more on the information that Molly is telling us so that we are able to kind of interpret what might actually be going on, or is she seeing this correctly and that this is nothing to worry about. It was one of the most engaging reader experiences that I've had in a while. The tone was another thing that worked for me, but it took a little while to get there. The reason for that is because The Maid is kind of split into half tonally. So the first half, or the before call era as I call it, has a very different tone than the after call era. However, both work, it's just the before call one was a little bit more stressful for me. So if you're like me, the before call era of this book will have you screaming into the pages. The reason for this is because Nita does a really good job of making us care about Molly, but because of the way Molly sees the world, she keeps digging herself deeper and deeper into this mess, making decisions that do make sense given what we know about her, but they're just infuriating to read about because nobody seems to be helping her out. The aftercall section of the book was by far my favorite. The amount of humor, joy, hope that is written into those pages after you just come out of this like brutal gauntlet of nobody coming to Molly's aid was just so enjoyable. I found myself smiling, I found myself laughing, and that was the part I could finish in like a day, no problem. I didn't have to take any breaks once we got to that part, but I'm not gonna get into major spoilers about what's happening because it's a book. Final thing that I really want to hit on when it comes to the positives of this book is Molly. This book relies so heavily on whether or not you care about Molly, and interspersed in the chapters, we'll learn a little bit about her past, her life, her history with her grandmother, and as somebody who had a really close connection with their grandmother, this struck a chord for me. It made me really care about Molly. The book is just fantastic if you have this love for Molly and you want to see her succeed, and I think in that regard, the author really did a good job in doing that. Now on to some things that I didn't love. First, the way the story was shaping up leads you into believing this is a whodunit mystery, and while there are some crimes that paying attention to the hints will help give you some of the answers towards, the main mystery, or at least for me it was absolutely unsolvable until it was revealed at the end. Another weird thing was that all indications show that this book was supposed to be set in modern times, but there were like multiple times that I found myself reading back to see if there was any mention of a date, because it felt like this book was meant to be written in the 1920s with the way the characters talk and acted. Not that a book set in that time period is inherently bad, it just jarred me. Like, for example, every time that a cell phone was brought up in the story, it like really shook me out of the book reading experience for a while, because the book is told in this very like old English style of narration that I was like, what year are we in whenever modern technology was introduced? My final critique with this book came with the detective character, at least at the start of the book. As someone with a criminal justice major, the way that she was made to interact with Molly just broke my suspension of disbelief entirely, as there was no way that the kind of interrogations, the kind of questioning, the kind of treatment of Molly would ever allow for any of the evidence that is supposedly being collected to hold up in court. It's just such an abuse of power dynamic that it took me out of it for a little bit, to the point that I was like, what are we doing here? The ending also required a certain level of suspension of disbelief, as while I did find it satisfying, it did kind of remind me about an old like Twilight Zone episode called To Serve Man that ended with the infamous line,
Mr. Chambers, don't get on that ship. The rest of the book, To Serve Man, it's a cookbook.
It was kind of interesting and reasonable, but it just made me laugh more than anything else. Overall, I would say that The Maid was a really fun read, and my final rating for it would be, if you can find it on sale, I would say purchase it, but if not, check to see if they have it in your local library. Due to its length, you can probably get through it in a weekend and return it at no cost to you. If you enjoyed this review, please be sure to leave a like, subscribe, and drop a comment down below. I'd really love to know your thoughts on this book if you have read it. And with that, have a great rest of your day and stay safe out there. Hey there guys, thank you all so much for watching my latest video. If you enjoyed my review and want to see some more, go ahead and click that playlist on screen. And if reviews aren't really your thing and you want to hear me talk about some Harry Potter, click the other video on the screen now. Have a great rest of your day, and until next time, see ya.